Hey everybody, welcome back to Friends from Film School. I'm Luke Pilgrim.
I'm Brad Kennedy.
I'm Ellis Treese.
And off camera, we're joined by
Ryan Guthrie.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, guys, we are just deep in the world of Mad Max. This is our third episode talking about it. We're having another classic movie night. This time we watched Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
I bet you guys probably didn't even know that movie existed, because I didn't.
Well,
until we started watching the Mad Max series.
Right.
But
I mean, yeah, I definitely wasn't super... the only reason I knew of it was because of the references all the time. People will say, like, welcome to Thunderdome, you know, and stuff like that.
That's Floyd. Floyd! Welcome to Thunderdome, bitch.
Which I don't think they said in the movie.
No?
Like, I feel like that's a common phrase.
I agree.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually say those words. It's kind of like the Luke Skywalker, like, you know, the Luke, I am your father.
Yeah.
Misquoted.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, what a wild ride.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the plot of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
So it's a 1985 Australian post-apocalyptic dystopian action film, just like the other ones were.
The first one's
the Road
debatable.
Warrior.
Yeah. You're right. So this movie was, of course, directed by George Miller, but this time he had someone else with him. I don't know how to say his last name, Brad.
Oh.
I was going to ask that before we got on air because I was looking at my notes and I'm like,
I'm pretty sure I figured out how to say it.
It's like,
because Byron passed away, Byron Kennedy, right? And man, when the ending said for Byron, that hit me, dude.
Oh, me too, man.
Yeah. Anyway, so George Ogilvy?
I think the G's silent. I think it's Olivier.
Olivier? Oh, that makes more sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
George Olivier.
I never would have guessed that. I would have put so much emphasis on the G.
Ogilvy?
Ogilvy.
I mean, it could be. I don't know. Ryan, maybe you can see if you can find that, but... You probably it doesn't matter.
Good luck.
It doesn't matter. Anyways, let's see. So of course it's a sequel to Mad Max 2. I mean, is that what you call a third movie? It's still a sequel? I guess so.
I guess yeah.
It's the threequel. You know, Mel Gibson's character Max is exiled into the desert by the ruthless ruler of Barter Town. Mm-hmm. Auntie Entity, is that her last?
Yeah.
I didn't know that from watching the movie. Of course, played by
the legend Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Isn't it wild that like Mad Max as a series up to this point is pretty much based off of Mel Gibson? He's the star. But when they're like, oh, we need a co-star, we need to do it big, we need to get someone who's going to really, you know, co-headline this movie.
Yeah.
They get Tina Turner of all people. It just seems
it's a crazy choice, and love her freaking outfit, man.
It really works,
she looked
though.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool choice too. This one felt the most 80s of all of them, I think.
Oh, for sure.
The soundtrack, everything else.
Well, that's because they had some Tina Turner songs. Like,
exactly.
What's the one, like, We Don't Need a Hero?
Yep.
And then in parentheses, it's called Thunderdome.
Yeah. Let's see. So, basically, yeah, she kicks him out of this Barter Town. And there encounters an isolated cargo cult centered on a crashed Boeing 747 and its deceased captain.
Fly, Walker! Fly, Walker, fly!
So there he basically...
Captain Walker.
Yeah, this is like Lord of the Flies or something. He's got like just these... It reminded me of the Lost Boys, you know, like Peter Pan style.
I definitely... I want to talk about that section for sure.
And anything else about it?
You know, pretty much. And then
they had their stereotypical car chase at the end of the movie.
Course.
But it reminded me very much of the first one in that I paused the movie and I looked at how much was left, and it was 4 minutes, and that was the final.
So the third act is always like really short.
They're like, hey, we gotta rush through it. We're running out of budget. Let's throw it.
That's because they can only film so many like cars blowing up at once. They're like, we'll just throw it at the end of the
until you get to.
It's like
Fury Road.
Yeah, it's like George Miller likes the build-ups more, you know? It's like he likes all that, the sort of journey part, which, you know, is kind of the cool part of the movie. But So let's jump into it.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning, because I was thinking about this, how funny it is that the first character we see is from the previous movie as a different character.
Yes.
Right? Bruce Spence, the actor.
See, okay, so that guy, I was wondering, because I think he's a different character, right?
I definitely feel like he is.
Because he didn't recognize him.
Yeah, well, it almost seemed ambiguous, though, because, like, there were moments where, like, the dude's looking at him, like, he recognizes him.
He recognized him because he knew he stole from him or something.
Yeah.
Like, he knew the guy was
But
coming
he was
back.
wearing a hood over
I know,
him.
but I don't think they thought about that. I think they were insinuating that he recognized him.
I feel like, too, if it's the same character, it kind of breaks the conclusion of the Road Warrior,
I agree.
right? Because he takes over the town, he becomes like their leader. So the idea for him to suddenly have this child and they're just roaming, the wasteland,
Right.
It just seems like it would kind of undercut everything that happened.
I had the same thought, though. I was going back and forth. I was kind of like, is this
I was torn
the guy?
on it because, like, at the end, too, when he goes into his, like, bunker or whatever, there he's, like, got this moment of recognition. He's like, you. And he's like, you.
This way!
You! Me? You. It's your lucky day. It is?
But he's the one. It's because he stole his
Yeah,
stuff.
I know.
That's really what it is. Maybe they're making a little nod to the previous film or something, but it's just an insane choice to me. Like, because literally the guy who's a big part of part 2 of Mad Max is the first person you see in the third one. Like, we left off with him at the end of the last movie being this the new leader of this group and everything, and then we open on him, the same actor, and you think, like, everyone in the audience had to think, oh, it's I forget his name, the gyro captain or whatever.
Yeah.
They had to think it's that guy, and he's flying a plane.
Pretty much.
He's flying a plane too.
What I had heard or read was that they were looking for someone to play this captain, and they're like, you know what, we'll just throw it to Bruce Spence again.
Yeah.
And then it's like that's how it came about. Yeah.
That's how they make all their decisions in this franchise.
I thought his kid was almost a kid that he had with that girl from the second movie.
Yeah.
If, like, they were the same character. I don't know. It's super weird.
Well, anyways, this is a crazy choice.
Yeah.
So yeah, when he ends up after that guy steals all his stuff, he goes into the Barter Town. I loved all that stuff.
Oh man,
so cool.
I'll say this. I feel like this movie is the least Mad Max of all of them, including Fury Road, which is interesting because Fury Road, I think for all of us, was the first one we watched. And then now doing this podcast series, we've kind of gone back to the original, The Road Warrior, and now Beyond Thunderdome. And I feel like Beyond Thunderdome is kind of the black sheep of them all.
Yeah.
I really like this movie, though, but it feels the least like it, where I was reading the article and it was talking about specifically the original Mad Max and the Road Warrior, and said they're minimalistic films, which I agree completely.
Yeah.
Story wise, the way they're written, the way they're kind of planned out, it's leaving so much more to the audience to kind of form the whole narrative. You have that main through line of action and you're watching it play out, but the backstories, everything like that, you're just kind of taking in visually and you fill in the gaps. Where I feel like Beyond Thunderdome is the opposite.
Yeah.
It's way more Hollywood in its approach, and if anything, I feel like it's the most I kept on thinking of Steven Spielberg.
I was going to say the same thing.
It definitely had a lot of Spielberg vibes and shots, and it reminded me of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like a ton. When he goes in there, when he first meets the guy with the crazy goggle thing on or whatever, and he's like making the deal.
I'm looking for someone.
You got anything to trade or not?
He was driving a team of camels.
People come here to trade. Make a little profit, do a little business. Got nothing to trade, you got no business in Barter Town.
Now we're on the inside, that's all.
Next.
That felt so much like he had gone into this like Star Wars town, or going to Jabba's palace, or going to the cantina,
To
or
me,
whatever.
it felt like it started Star Wars and then transitioned to like Jurassic Park or Indiana
Oh,
Jones.
yeah.
And,
Okay.
like the latter half.
And
of the
Blade
movie.
Runner. It reminded me of Blade Runner too.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of the like backlight and just
Well,
vibe.
here's my thing. I feel like I got a major Spielberg vibe, but I realized that I feel like it took a lot of the shot progression and like way of framing and the kind of similar tone of Raiders, but then it does its own thing, and I'm watching it, which is interesting because obviously it feels like it really influenced Spielberg's, or part of Spielberg's 90s career, in that Hook takes a lot from this movie, and we can get into that more in like the second act, with the kids and the Captain Walker. It feels like pretty much Steven Spielberg looked at Beyond Thunderdome with this tribe of kids and said, I want to make that with the Lost Boys, which is interesting because I feel like that section really borrows heavy from Peter Pan anyway. But I feel like it was visually the prototype of what Spielberg did. Also, I feel like AI takes a lot from this movie too, because the whole like Beyond Thunderdome reminded me of the Flesh Fair.
Yeah, the Flesh Fair. I thought about that too, like because the sign.
It was
this neon sign, or like the blinking light. I love that. Was such a cool detail.
Nuka Cafe, I think is what it was called.
No, I'm talking about the Thunderdome sign, and it's like live. It was. Have you seen AI?
I haven't seen AI.
Okay,
we'll have to do an episode about it. But yeah, I definitely felt like that took it like almost shot for shot of how that scene opens in AI of the Thunderdome. Yeah,
like if you haven't seen AI, there's literally a scene called the Flesh Fair, I think. But it's similar in that like they bring robots there and they put them out on display, and it's like this giant, like not an arena but sort of like that vibe, like Coliseum vibe of kind of like the gladiators, and but they're like, what do you want us to do? Like, do you want us to kill this robot or whatever? And anyways, it has a vibe a lot like Thunderdome.
And you know what reminded me too of AI was at the end when they're going through the ruins and the girl's doing the narration. It reminded me of the ending of AI when I forget Haley Joel Osment's character, but he goes to New York. Yeah,
they called it Manhattan, right? They were talking about the the like Mecca or whatever. That reminded me. It reminded me of that, and it also kind of reminded me of Blade Runner in that part as well.
I thought of Blade Runner when I watched it.
Still and all, every night we does the tell, so that we remember who we was and where we came from. But most of all, we remembers the man who finded us, him that came the salvage, and we lights the city, not just for him, but for all of them that are still out there. Because we knows there'll come a night when they sees the distant light and they'll be coming home.
Super interesting. I also realized too, speaking of Blade Runner, watching this movie, I felt like Blade Runner, or the cyberpunk genre, and we talked about it when we talked about Blade Runner on one of our earlier episodes. The cyberpunk genre owes so much to Blade Runner for a lot of its aesthetic. And I feel like apocalyptic, like post-apocalyptic stuff owes so much to Mad Max. I feel like this movie maybe, and The Road Warrior, but I feel like this movie with the world building,
I saw so much of Fallout in this. It was like crazy. I was like, I'm starting to put all the pieces together from like where all these apocalyptic movies are like making their connections to games, and it was insane.
It's interesting how much like style they have, considering their lives suck so bad. It's like, in spite of the fact that the world's basically ended, and I guess in this one they've built this sort of town, so there's a little civilization, but they have so much style that they clearly follow in their hair and their the guy with the head above his head, like the short dude.
It was awesome.
That was the funniest costume I've ever seen. Awesome. Like, it's so not practical too. When he was climbing and stuff, his head's like bouncing on top of him.
I like too, even just the little bits when Max first goes into Barter Town, like the guy with he's like, you want to buy some water? And Max takes like the scanner, and he's like, there's some fallout in there. He's like, you don't want some nuclear waste?
Yeah. Hey, step up, Smug. Let's get some dealing done. H2O, that's my go. Hey, don't you understand? This is water. You can't live without it. What's a little fallout, huh? Have a nice day.
Oh, that was such a good little touch. There's a ton of that stuff because George Miller's great about like just floating through the town. Like you get to meet a lot of people quickly. They're just like side characters. They're not even characters. They're like just extras. But you're floating through as he's like going up that elevator and all that cool stuff. Let's talk about MasterBlaster.
Dude, amazing character.
That character has inspired so many copycat characters.
Well, I thought
of
BioShock. It felt like a Big Daddy.
Yeah, Big Daddy and a little sister.
Pull this thing just like that way a little bit. It's not.
Come on, Ellis. What you doing?
Damn.
Yeah, dude. MasterBlaster was like cool character, man. Like when they first showed him, my mind was blown because the giant dude, tiny little guy on his back, riding him in this little chair type thing. And I love the premise too, because it's like this dude has let this power get to his head, and they've got to they want to hire Max to take him out.
Yeah.
They want to keep the brains but kill the brawn or whatever.
Dude, it felt like a full character shift or whatever after Blaster is gone and it's just Master.
Yeah.
I felt like Master's persona completely does a 180.
But I really like that because when they first I love the scene, they send Max down, you find out that the whole town's ran on methane. Which I thought was just such an awesome thing. I also feel like the fact that they see George Miller film with probably hundreds of pigs, and they go, "This is the guy for Babe 2, Pig in the City."
Dude, I didn't even think about that. Oh my gosh.
I bet some producer just saw that and they're like, "Nah, he's our guy."
Get George Miller on the phone.
This guy knows about pig shit. Get him for Babe 2.
But man, it was just such a good. The world building was insane, but they introduced MasterBlaster. But talking about the character change, I feel like the way he spoke,
it changes.
Master, he's got sentences that are almost just so rudimentally.
Dude, it reminded me of The Office when Kevin starts speaking really in chopped up sentences or whatever, and it's to save time. He's like, "Me hungry." Me no go.
Okay, what were you saying before about the paperwork?
Me doing now. Go. Stop worry.
Kevin, do you feel okay?
Me feel good. Body strong. Sleep big last night.
Yeah, I think we should get him to the hospital.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, why don't you come with us?
MasterBlaster runs Barter Town.
Yeah.
Embargo off.
But it was crazy because I thought his it felt wild because I thought when he got kicked out of there that it felt like a different movie started happening a little bit. I had this vibe of I thought more of the movie would, I don't know, happen there at first or something. It just felt like a kind of a wild transition to kick him out. It literally felt like a whole movie in the first half.
Are you talking about
the first part
when
of Barter
Max leaves?
Yeah. I felt like we kind of had this whole movie before he even left there,
Well, I mean, it's called Beyond Thunderdome, so
that's true.
They're like, "Hey, well, we showed you Thunderdome, and let's talk about Thunderdome, but we're going beyond that."
Yeah, I thought that was a weird title too because it's they'd never shown Thunderdome until this movie.
No one knows what Thunderdome is.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Oh,
but we're going beyond."
Yeah, that's a weird title. Let's see what happened then. So the busted. He gets in the fight with the guy. Yeah, right. He's fighting
Blaster
in the big Thunderdome. Those are some great scenes,
dude. What about the guy who kind of is the carnival barker? He's got the giant shoulder pad.
Guy.
Oh, I mean it's he has such a small part, but every character has just this amazing backstory. It's the mix of, I think they kind of allow these players to really ham it up.
Yeah.
But you have this, you're filling in the pieces. Too, I think we forgot to mention it, but what about the saxophone guy where she's like, what does she say? Play something tragic or something?
Yeah. Yes.
Play something dun-dun. Something tragic.
And he's like, it took me back to the first one when we meet his wife and she's playing saxophone. Except this time it's a naked dude playing saxophone.
With his eyes are all white. It's some
he blind? I guess he's blind.
Yeah, it's blind.
Brad's making fun of disabled people again.
God.
So we're in Thunderdome and they're fighting. Blaster just keeps stabbing people outside of Thunderdome.
Oh, dude, I love that guy. He's like running, and then some guy goes, ah!
Yeah, or he hits him in the head with a big mallet.
Yes.
Like, literally, I was like, this is really dangerous to watch Thunderdome.
I had a cool note about that, and then I also wanted to talk about the costumes. Side tangent really fast. I think the reason that all those side characters work so well is because the costumes kind of play into what their backstory would be or their persona. Like the guy with the thing above his head, I think it was something to do with the fact that he was trying to set himself apart, like as a character backstory. And maybe because he's short, he has it above him because it's like he wants to seem more intimidating and taller. Than
Right, that's what I thought
really
too.
is
because he was short. He's
Yeah.
But it was like the Jared Leto head.
Yeah,
stuck up above him, floating around.
Anyways, a cool BTS thing about the fight in the Thunderdome, because they're on these like crazy bungee cords whenever they're fighting.
Yeah.
Those bungee cords did not supply enough lift for the actors to actually make those leaps. So they had these like manually controlled compressed air systems to like shoot the actors up into the air in like short like spurts or whatever.
Whoa.
And they were shot up about 18 feet.
Holy cow.
And they got bruised and abrased, and it took a heavy toll on all of the cast and crew members. And Mel Gibson only had 2 days to master the maneuvers for that scene.
Wow. I was wondering how much he was in it, because you could tell there was a stunt guy a few times when he'd be throwing his hair around all crazy and intentionally.
Speaking of his hair, it makes no sense if you're living out in a wasteland. Like, this is where I feel like it really feels 80s, is if you're living out in a wasteland, you're not going to have a mullet. Like, what's going to prompt you to just go, I'm going to cut the top, but I'm going to leave it?
Wait, who had a mullet?
Max.
His hair was like just crazy long.
It was long all over.
No, he had a mullet. He legit had a mullet because the top was like cut.
No, it was like long.
It was long all
sides
over.
And back.
Ryan, you got my back.
They cut his hair later, but like,
yeah, I don't know. I think maybe he thought it was a mullet because of the highlights.
Like he had it pulled back sometimes, yeah, and he had the highlights on the side.
Yeah, I think it was just his hair was long, but it was going back. But he didn't have a mullet.
You're not saying like
his hair's pulled back right there.
Are we sure about this? I mean, this might be the hill I die on, but
yeah, I never thought it was a mullet.
I just thought it was long hair.
I thought it was like cut at the top and then on the.
It's like when you saw him from the back, though, that hair was still
long.
Was still there, I think.
And it was just like crazy, wild, and scraggly on the sides. I don't.
It's like maybe
I see what you.
Maybe it is cut. I don't know, dude.
It's weird.
Wait, what's that?
Dude, it's Braveheart. Yeah, it's I listened to I was trying to do some research, multitasking, so I listened to this other podcast that talked about Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Wasn't really that informational, so kind of wasted my time.
Dude, I don't know now. Maybe you're right. Like it's like this hair looks short right there in the front.
I'm going with the fact that it wasn't a mullet.
I obviously you will. You don't. You never want to agree with me.
I'm
Brian May. Look, who's that?
I'm willing to say I was wrong, you know. Oh wait, what's this? We got an incoming message
from Ryan.
Incoming message. Yeah, look at that. See, that is not a mullet.
He's got some short hairs in the front for sure.
Yeah,
I could see it now that you say it.
I'm wondering how they even did that.
I don't know.
Is this part of wig? It's definitely a wig, right?
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, the podcast I listened to, they were like, you know what, Mel Gibson during the filming of this goes, I'm going to keep this hairstyle for another movie. I'll save it for another time. And then obviously Braveheart happens.
Yeah.
So the funny part was the rhyming again. Bust a deal, face the wheel.
Yes.
But I loved the wheel, the lighting as it was turning.
So good.
Lighting
that was going over his face.
It lit up his face as it would spin. That was a really cool touch.
I just love their method of punishment. You know, they're like, oh, if you have a disagreement with someone, you're going to the Thunderdome.
Fight to the death.
Yeah, fight to the death. 2 men enter, one man leaves. And then then he doesn't want to kill the guy, which I thought that was a great reveal.
Yeah. Right, he's mentally handicapped.
Yeah.
And he's like, you see Mad Max has a heart, and Mad Max is not just a
Do you think he drew
murderer.
sympathy from the first movie? Because there was another guy that was like mentally challenged in the first one.
In the first one?
Yeah.
Who?
I'm not remembering now.
It was whenever he was at the older lady's house and his wife went down.
Okay,
and
yeah.
There was the mentally handicapped who was like, he has a mind of a child.
Running
they
through
brought,
the woods
They
with
brought that back in this movie.
Yeah.
I was
Right.
wondering if it was...
Okay,
Interesting.
I didn't think about that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So you definitely start. If you didn't already, you're relating to Max. You're like, you see that he has a heart. He's not just like this terrible desert dude. He's not just a murderer. Especially if it's just like an innocent, childlike person.
Oh, a cool thing too about the Thunderdome sequence. Roger Ebert said this was the closest, like the next step in action that he felt like he saw in a movie. He said since Kung Fu movies came out, he said it was like the next level.
Wow.
Which I thought was really high praise. I mean, it was a cool sequence, but I didn't think it was all that revolutionary.
What? Didn't you have something about the wheel?
Well, no, it was dumb.
Okay. Never mind. Well, yeah.
The gulag.
The gulag.
One overall thought about the movie was I thought it was even more cartoonish than any of them.
Oh, yeah.
With like frying pan to the face and the guy smiles before he passes out.
Yes.
That dude stuck on the front of the train screaming.
Or
in
like
that
when
one
he
part.
like crashes and flips the bird off.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
I love the little, we're going to count to 3. And then he's like, what happened to 2?
We're gonna count to 3. 1.
What happened to 2?
That's
Or
been in
like-
some other movies, right? I feel like I've seen that before.
Or what felt especially Spielberg to me was whenever he was like running and chasing that one guy and then disappears around a corner and then he starts running back and there's like 5 people chasing him.
Yeah.
As he's running by, I was like, I love that so
Yes.
much.
Hi.
Yeah. Or when the kid was cutting the pole the guy was hanging on.
Yes.
Remember that? It's like the guy's jumping over these, or he keeps lifting his body up as things are flying by.
Yeah, it felt
looks
like-
over and the kid's like
Again,
a cartoon.
It felt like Hook, Goonies. It definitely had a kind of Amblin vibe for sure. But yeah, I guess going back to the plot of the movie, once Max leaves Barter Town, it's almost
whole
a
new
completely new movie.
New style. Like,
Yeah.
Which the director of photography said that he wanted to distinctly make it feel like they were 2 different worlds. So he shot it 2 different ways.
Okay. That's cool.
Which kind of makes sense as to why we think that it feels so different.
Yeah.
Besides just the plot.
Yeah. And
So-
and then everything I've kind of read about people's reaction, like normal general audience, the kids part is the part people dislike the most with this movie.
And that's the part George Miller liked the most from what I saw. It's like that was the most important part to him, was the part with the kids. But
I felt like it really set up his whole 90s career. You know, everything almost to once he came back to Mad Max with Fury Road. You know, he kind of did like family films. So you see that progression of him slowly leaving this kind of nihilistic hard action movie with the first 2 Mad Max, and this is that transition point to a different style. And I wonder how much of that also came with the death of Byron Kennedy, of him wanting to leave. And I guess, we mentioned it a little bit, but he passed away in 1983. So the movie came out in the 85, but Byron passed away in a helicopter crash, location scouting for this one. And in interviews I had read about their relationship, is that it was almost a coin toss on who was director, who was producer. Like Mad Max was very much their creative partnership. You okay, Ryan?
Yeah, that's not bad.
So it was like their thing, you know, their world that they made, and then I couldn't imagine being George Miller and like your best friend just
your
died.
friend passes away, but this movie almost didn't get made, but he made it for like completely for Byron. He's like, I'm gonna finish this thing for my friend.
Yeah, which I think that's kind of where you're at, that like crossroads of thinking, do I leave it be because he passed away, or do I continue on and do it in memory of him? And I'm glad that, you know, he decided to continue on.
It makes me wonder too why, if that's the main reason Fury Road took so long to be made afterwards. Like aside from like financial and technological constraints.
Yeah, he maybe didn't want to revisit it, you know, yet.
Yeah,
you know.
He probably wasn't ready.
Well, you mentioned he was like location scouting. Did you know that the location they filmed at for the kids scenes was a sacred Aboriginal location? Yeah, that's cool. They had to get special permission from these like Aboriginal tribes to film there, and so they went there. They told them the story of Mad Max and everything, and these tribes told George Miller that they had heard the story before, which made him like excited because he was like, "Oh, this is like the monomyth." Yeah, he's just like this. That just gave him more confidence that he had a great story or whatever, because they had heard similar tales and like myths that they had passed down.
That's cool.
Which brings me to the story, which I'd love to get into real quick because I mentioned it earlier off air, but I don't know if this is what you heard, but it's about the story being basically stolen.
Yes.
Did you hear about this, any?
No.
Dude, so
it's interesting, right?
This is interesting. There's a guy named Russell Hoban who is a writer. Okay. After watching Mad Max 2, Russell contacts George Miller and Terry Hayes because he wants them to...
Terry Hayes is the screenwriter
for Mad Max. He wants them to adapt his book, Ridley Walker, into a movie. Ridley Walker is like a post-apocalyptic book where these tribal people speak in a shorthand English. They have their own rituals, and they reuse old technology. It sounds very much like Mad Max, right? So they take Russell Hoban out to dinner. He gave them a copy of the book, but then he just never heard back. Then later on, you know, like probably months and months later, he starts getting letters from people saying, "Have you seen Mad Max 3? They ripped you off." So he watches the movie, he finds out they basically took all of his story, like literally. I mean, the Ridley Walker, you know, Captain Walker, there's even a character named Auntie or whatever in his book, and the book is basically sort of all of the part about the kids is like kind of like all from this book. So he talked to his agent, and his agent said, well, it's clearly inspired by your book, but there's not enough there for a lawsuit,
which is surprising to me.
And that was it, though. He never got any money, anything like that. But so
that's like the craziest thing. I definitely feel for the guy, but it's kind of funny that he sees these guys making a post-apocalyptic movie series, and he thinks, you know, I'll reach out to them because they work in the same wheelhouse. You know, they know how probably best to do my vision, and obviously they did. But
all right, so I want to play you guys this. Hopefully you can hear it, but this is George Miller talking about, and I just happened to stumble upon this clip in this like 46-minute documentary, clicking through randomly. But this guy asks him about the story, and listen to how George Miller describes how the story came about.
One day we were talking generally about Mad Max, and we started talking about a story, and suddenly we realized we had the beginnings of a story. And I was with Terry actually, and one time I was having dinner with him in a restaurant, and he started to talk about a story, and I suddenly said, "Oh my God, that's Mad Max 3. I mean, we have a story there." And so we worked on it for about 18 months.
Now, does that sound like a guy who wrote his own story? And he literally says, we were out at dinner. I'm out at dinner with Terry.
And just omits the other guy.
Yeah, Terry starts telling this story, and I go, my God, that's Mad Max 3. And it's like, that's part of what happened probably. He's probably at dinner with this writer who's telling him his story, and he's thinking, oh, this is Mad Max 3. And like, the way he's telling that just sounds like he's just kind of making it up as he goes. Yes. It's like he's definitely leaving out part of that story.
What an inspired place to have an interview too, on the back of a moving vehicle.
Yeah.
And George Miller looks like a lion tamer.
I did like, out of the kids like scene though, I liked all the shorthand English. It almost felt like they had like built a culture and like language like for these kids. Like I don't know, it was just really good acting. I felt like they really lived in the space.
You know what I really liked too was the what is it, the slide projector little thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're explaining what happened in the world, which is hilarious because obviously Max lived, before nuclear fallout happening, but they're showing it, and it's showing the plane, and it's these like stock images, but they're like, oh, this is Captain Walker,
it's like
and that's his wife.
Relic too.
Yeah. That, and then they had their like cutout thing that made it look kind of like a TV screen that they would hold up to their cave paintings. Yeah. And then they have a record that's on a stick they're spinning.
I love that.
Trying to figure out how to get this record to play. Work. And then later, of course, they actually find an old phonograph or whatever.
That was such a great scene where Max, he's like hanging on the side of the train and sticks his hand in and does it. And it's a tape to learn how to speak French.
Yeah. I was like, is that important? Is that symbolic of anything? I didn't know if that was...
I couldn't figure it out.
If there was a reason for what was on the recording.
Maybe the kids thought there was some deeper meaning to it, or they were trying to make sense of it.
But they found deeper meaning in everything.
But I don't know. Maybe it was to show it was just like pointless.
Yeah. But it was so cool. Like the transition point of the movie is he's sent out, into the desert. I love they put that like mask on him and just like kick the horse, and he keeps going.
Yeah.
And Savannah, was that her name? She finds him, brings her back to the tribe, and then we have all that. Then they have that like war boy character, which I guess comes in. Like
he never shows up again, right?
Wait, the kid with the white stuff on his face.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like Mad Max Fury Road, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like setting that up.
Ryan, what you were saying that earlier? What was the guy called in Fury Road? That's like,
I think it was War Boy, or he was a War Boy. I'll look up his name in the actual movie.
Yeah, so
though.
I'm really confused because obviously that kid. So. Is this how it went down in the movie, that all these kids were the surviving children of the people who...
From the plane?
Were from the plane?
I don't know. And
That's what I thought.
And multiple...
Like, people survived the plane crash, and then obviously the parents,
died.
Had passed away, or had kids and then passed away.
Because they were all young kids, which is why I thought the parents of the plane had children when they were trying to survive, and those children... are young right now.
Yeah.
And I guess all the adults died off or something. I don't know.
It was crazy. They had such deep lore and stuff, considering it hasn't been that long, like since the apocalypse happened.
Max can still remember stuff.
Yeah, it seemed like it was wild. They had such a deep like cult religion type thing that happened.
Do you have something about the War Boy character? Or?
Oh yeah, in the movie in Fury Road, his name is Nux.
Yeah,
that guy.
Nux. Yeah,
but that's not the same person, is it? It's supposed to be.
Or is it just are War Boys that's like a thing they do?
I thought it was all like the War Boys were Immortan Joe's like
Abominable George. Keep going.
Like children or something. Like because he had the farm of like the women, and he like kept the boys. Or something.
I was trying to draw parallels if that was the same one from Fury Road.
But that's where I was kind of confused, because obviously this kid, if he's a surviving member, I don't know, like they have this one kid, he's kind of like an outcast. He's like hanging out with this Bugs Bunny, like
what's he is he like a lookout guy or something? Is he?
I don't know. I liked his little picture
of himself.
Yeah. This little biography, his name is Screw Loose.
Screw, like he's got a screw loose.
Yeah, and it just says that he's a recluse of the group.
He's the emo kid.
I was about to say he starts My Chemical Romance later.
Apparently he's mute and often absorbed in thought, but also attentive to natural signs. He's all over the place.
Wow.
Crazy. Well, I feel like right now is a pretty good time to take a break, and then we'll jump back in to more Beyond Thunderdome.
Hey guys, we just wanted to take a quick second to tell you we have launched our Patreon page. It's a place where listeners can help support the show and gain access to exclusive content.
Now for $5 a month, our Patreon members get bonus episodes like our classic movie nights, where we watch classic films and talk in depth about what we liked, what hasn't aged as well, and how they achieved some of their special effects.
You'll also get early access to episodes before they're released to the public, and we'll give you a shout out on an episode of the show as well. Now this is a growing platform, so we'll be adding all kinds of new content over time, and you can gain access to all of it exclusively at patreon.com/friendsfromfilmschool.
You can follow at Sozo Bear Films on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now let's get back to the show.
Something that didn't really add up to me was, like, this movie takes place 15 years after the second movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they're still just kids that are living by themselves.
Yeah, like, so how
like,
old?
They
so
haven't grown up.
Someone had to have had a child.
And then they just leave them? Like, there's like, all right, this is where you live.
Or, yeah, because it's like, there's no way these kids could have had kids. They're not old enough.
Because the apocalypse already happened.
Yeah.
Like, so
the youngest ones don't make sense.
Yeah, and like they're all, it's like it's basically like Peter Pan.
Unless
they
like,
don't grow up.
Yeah, unless like one of the older kids was starting to have kids. That doesn't make sense.
But it didn't look like.
Yeah.
There was like maybe 2 people in that group that could have had children too.
Yeah.
Like the 2 main like leaders.
Oh,
yeah, you're right.
Let's talk about this too. Like when the scouting troop goes out from the kids camp and they're trying to go back into the desert. I love the whole thing with the plane being out there too. That was awesome.
Looked amazing, and that was like a real plane, man.
Mm-hmm. But the craziest thing is Max, takes the group, they go back and find him. That kid fell in the sand and they just lost him forever.
Oh, he's dead.
Oh, yeah.
They just straight up lost the kid, and they're like, okay, well, Barter Town's that way.
Yeah. I also was a little confused why they wanted to go into Barter Town. He was like, it's our only chance, kind of. That whole point in the story, the motivation seemed odd. Like, I was like, why are you going to Barter Town? I mean, I guess they needed water or something.
Well, it was the only civilization to escape the desert.
But then once they got there, it's like they had a goal. Like, what were they? He wanted to find the guy who knew everything or whatever. It's like, what is Mad Max talking about? Why does he want to find that guy?
Yeah.
Like, unless he was wanting to free him. You know what I mean? Like, the motivation doesn't make sense.
I think a lot of it, too, is he knows his car's there. Like, Max ultimately is kind of self-serving in that regard. He loses his camels and wagon, and then he finds, his car.
But he was not going back there intentionally.
I know.
He was like, stay here.
Yeah.
He's shooting at this girl, making her stay in this camp.
Yeah, he was like, let's live here forever.
Let's stay here forever. Then he goes out into
That's one way to, get kids to listen to you, shoot at them.
Fire a weapon at them. So, but then, like, because these kids snuck off, he goes to help find them, and then he's like, Barter Town's that way. Let's go find the guy who knows everything. It just is like, this doesn't make sense.
There was a weird.
Well, that's because your director's just going, "Hey, we had a story."
Yeah. It's because they stole the middle part of the movie, and then they had to figure out how to get back to Thunderdome.
They're like, "Wait, this is a Mad Max movie, right? Okay, third act, last 20 minutes, throw in the car chase, but this time with a train."
There was a weird cut at the desert where they were like, that's Barter Town, and then it cuts and they're at a pipe and they're like crawling through the pipe. That's the cut, and it's like, that made no sense. Why are we here now?
What that reminded me of? The part in The Last of Us when they have to travel through the pipes and underground.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
it was cool looking though when they were in the desert and you could see the lights of Barter Town far away. That was a cool shot.
Side tangent. Where did Master just get a full suit? And, like, he grew hair out of nowhere. So, like, did you notice that? So, Master at the very beginning has, like, no hair.
You're
and
right.
he's like, I'm Master. This is Blaster.
Yeah.
Embargo on. And then out of nowhere, he gets this full suit, glasses. His hair grows out of nowhere.
He needed a new look.
Whoa, why does he have hair?
Okay, wait, hold on. Because when we talked about Blade Runner, Ellis also said this guy got a bird just suddenly in his hand in one shot. There's
dark.
probably some shots
dark.
Yeah,
it just seemed weird. It was like a full wardrobe change.
Yeah. He went through a midlife crisis.
No, he had a helmet on, dude. That's why you couldn't see his hair. Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense.
The whole beginning of the movie, he's wearing that helmet with Blaster. And then, of course, they take his helmet away because they're torturing him and stuff.
But that doesn't explain the suit.
Well, I thought he found it in the train.
Did he find it in the train?
Yeah.
A suit that would fit his size?
Don't think too hard about it. It was a child suit.
Okay. I'll allow it.
Dude, the Blaster's helmet was so cool.
Yeah, man.
That was awesome.
I imagine they used some, like, the guy who played Blaster, like, was he actually, like...
Mentally handicapped?
Mentally handicapped, yeah.
Like the guy in the costume?
Yeah, because I
don't know.
imagine it seemed like they used shots to...
I doubt it. I think they had a guy playing the part.
Until they took the helmet off.
And then they just, like,
and then they
used
swapped.
certain shots.
That makes the most sense, I think.
Yeah.
Dude, they got costumes like where you like with like a kid like this, look. MasterBlaster, and your kid is like on your back playing. I'm gonna let me save this photo. Oh, what? A whole family doing it. Oh, I gotta save this photo.
That's awesome.
We gotta throw this one up.
That's awesome.
Okay, what were you about to say?
With the chase, I feel like they definitely wanted to up the ante with it and, you know, add in the train.
How can we make it even more dangerous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a cool story about the train.
Yeah, tell us.
So the stunt where the train destroys the car, where it runs into it and there's like that fiery explosion.
Yeah.
That was one of the most dangerous stunts in the film. And the same stuntman who flipped the truck and the Road Warrior is the one that gets signed up.
Wait. Stuntman? Or you mean just the guy that drove that truck?
The guy who flips the truck.
And who wasn't actually a stunt driver.
Yes, who's like some truck driver.
Right, random
which we
truck
learned
driver.
in the last episode.
Who's now a stuntman.
Yeah.
in this movie.
Exactly.
Career change.
Because we learned in the last episode that they just got a random guy who happened to know how to drive a truck to flip a truck for them.
Yeah.
I really hope the mailman also came and interrupted this train sequence.
Something did interrupt the train.
Okay.
So the train was halted for a day because there was an actual train that had to use the same railway lines. So they had to reschedule the stunt the following day. So that pushed their stunt back a day. And then,
so it was working tracks.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh.
And then after crashing into the car, the stunt driver sustained burns to his left arm and shoulder and was transported to the hospital via helicopter.
No.
Of course.
Yeah.
And he was
it's the same guy who flips the Mack truck in the Road Warrior.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder if this guy ended up working on Fury Road.
I would quit.
I don't know. I mean, but 30 years later,
that
you
would
could
be
maybe
the coolest
miss it.
story, though, to like a burn wound. You're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, you want to know how I got this? I got hit by a train.
I saw this page where they showed how much this movie drew inspiration from Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia. There's a ton of scenes like that they literally...
The desert stuff.
Almost,
absolutely.
Yeah, they almost stole some of the shots like exactly, and some of the definitely even his like wardrobe and stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
Mad Max's look.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even think about the wardrobe.
Yeah, it was a big influence on the movie.
The final scenes of the movie too. 9 crew members collapse from heat exhaustion. Just as a side tangent.
The chase sequence.
In the final scenes of the movie, yeah. So if there's anything we've learned from George Miller, don't work on his set.
No, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah,
you're gonna probably be hospitalized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're the star, you'll probably end up getting injured. Now, I'm curious to find out about Fury Road, if they had any similar problems.
Like if they finally figured it out.
Yeah, it was more modern films. Yeah, I feel like people are more strict now on film shoots. They have more budget, all those things.
Do you think, were all those vehicles and stuff real in Fury Road, or did they CG?
No, a lot of them were real.
Yeah.
They did film a lot in the desert. I remember watching
They
BTS.
did more like compositing.
Yeah, like sky. They did like sky replacement like crazy, and of course like just crazy like dust and storm type stuff. But a lot of, and they may have added some vehicles, but they filmed a lot of that stuff just like they did back in the day, but they just enhanced it, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
Now,
so there was still a chance for grievous injuries
Oh,
on
yeah.
that one too.
Now who knows? Like some of those guys on the poles in the air, maybe they CG'd those guys this time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh man, Fury Road. Remember the dude with the guitar? And
Yes,
the
the best.
So-
I love that guy.
So apparently, that they finally figured out how to incorporate rock music.
Yes.
Yeah. It took long enough.
They did it.
Our boy Brian May also didn't do the score for this one.
Sorry,
I know you're
I
really
just
upset.
Realized the audience wouldn't understand what we're talking about, but I was telling these guys off camera about that documentary that I pulled some of that audio from, and it was this terrible documentary. But these people are like asking the worst questions, and one of them was like asking why they didn't use rock and roll music for the score, and then they were like, well, it's rock music, you know, it just doesn't really work out timing wise, blah blah blah. And then of course they asked Mel Gibson his favorite rock band, and he says he doesn't have a favorite band or a favorite director or a favorite actor, so no favorites.
No favorites here. Speaking of the car sequence in this one, though, did y'all know or do research that Tina Turner could not drive a stick shift? So all the cars that they had designed were stick shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to customize and change out the car for her to make it an automatic.
I did not know that.
Yeah. She also had to like shave her head to wear the wig for this movie.
Oh man!
And she was like completely cool with it, apparently.
Wow. It's a cool wig, though.
Yeah,
it was really awesome.
Also, the other thing with her too is they considered Bette Midler or Jane Fonda for the role.
Bette Midler,
who's Bette Midler?
Let's see. I'll show you.
Yeah.
What else? What has she been in?
God, she's been in.
You know her for sure. She's been in all kinds of stuff.
Oh.
Her.
Yeah, okay, I know her.
What has she been in, Ryan?
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Beaches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's the main witch in Hocus Pocus.
Okay.
The redheaded one. But yeah, I don't know if I could see him in that role.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I guess at the time she was probably really big, right?
Yeah.
In 85. Who else did you say?
Jane Fonda.
Which
I could see a little bit more, but I still think Tina Turner probably was the best choice.
What was Jane Fonda
I think so too, for sure.
Huh?
What was Jane Fonda in?
This is Jane Fonda.
Jane Fonda is just as well known for being on and off camera.
What's some of Jane Fonda's movies, Ryan?
Barbarella, Book Club, 9 to 5.
Yeah, 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Monster-in-Law.
With Jennifer Lopez.
Never seen that.
With Jennifer Lopez, yes. Mm. And then Barefoot in the Park, 1967.
She was very big in the 60s, and she also went to,
she's on that new show, Grace and Frankie.
Mm-hmm.
On isn't that on Netflix?
I recognized her face.
Yeah.
For the chase scene too, did you know they had to completely dismantle the train and reassemble it on set?
Whoa.
To transport it.
Wow.
They had to do that, and then they transported over 24 vehicles for that scene.
That's crazy.
And then the rest of the crew just traveled via road.
How did they film those train scenes? Like people hanging on the side of the train, and
I was wondering if that was like for real stunts when he was like having to like pull his legs up over the.
Yeah,
I mean it's 85. So
I know, but that seems so dangerous.
Like there's a guy hanging on the side of a train, and there's what would you call those? Like hurdles, like these divider things.
It's over a bridge or something too.
And they're coming at him like full speed, and he has to lift his legs up to miss them. Otherwise, he would just kill him. That's a crazy stunt.
That's a really scary stunt, dude.
But knowing these movies, they had to have done it because they don't care about human life.
It seems so reckless.
I don't know how they could have pulled it off either. Because they didn't have CG, you know.
It just seems like this close. Like George Miller was this close to having some sort of terrible incident and then being blacklisted. And like every one of his movies.
Well, including Happy Feet.
Including
Happy Feet.
Well, you guys got any more notes, or should we check in with Ryan, see if he has anything?
Let's see, what else?
At Ryan's Corner?
I have the total budget of the film. It was $12 million in
$12 million
Australian money.
$12 million.
I feel like, too, speaking of the budget, definitely with Warner Brothers coming in to help produce this, you can tell obviously there's a jump from the first one to the Road Warrior and even more to this one.
So
right?
Mad Max, the first one was 350,000.
Yeah.
and then 4 million for Mad Max 2, it looks like.
Okay.
And then 12
and 12
for the third one.
We should just throw as much money to George Miller and see what he can do, because I think he has such crazy ideas, and it's. But I feel like the thing and why Fury Road took so long as well, on top of grieving through the process of losing Byron Kennedy in this movie, was I don't think Beyond Thunderdome it was successful and it did financially well, but it wasn't a runaway hit like the first Mad Max had such a huge return on investment
because it was done so cheap
and became a huge success.
Yeah.
The second one was a huge success, but this one, though successful, it wasn't the runaway, like we tripled our budget in profit. So I think people are a little afraid, like obviously you gotta go to another level with the fourth movie, but we're not making enough to really justify adding more to it.
It looks like Fury Road did not do as well as they would have hoped either. They spent $185 million.
Oh, no.
And so it says here they grossing just $375 million worldwide against its $154 to $185 million production budget and incurring overall losses of up to $20 to $40 million.
Wow.
Oh,
that's crazy.
Did you catch in the movie that they basically sort of explained Mad Max 1 in like a single line? Where she was like, "What'd you do before this?" And he was like, "I was a police officer."
And what did you do before this?
I was a cop, a driver.
But how the world turns. One day cock of the walk, next to feather dusting.
Which implies that in the first movie that was before the bombs fell.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like made more sense for the first movie that like everything was normal because the apocalypse had not happened. So in between 1 and 2 is when the bombs fell.
Well, I felt like they also kind of explained that in the intro to the Road Warrior.
I mean,
but I get what you mean. Yeah, it further explained it. They were like, we know the budget sucked in this movie, but we'll explain it away in the other ones.
It helped justify it to me that it was before like any sort of bombs fell.
So was the first one just sort of like a future kind of world then? Because it was still really weird, even though it wasn't yet.
Yeah.
I guess it was kind of dystopian.
I think society started falling apart.
You can be dystopian and not post-apocalyptic.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I guess it was sort of dystopian, and then the bombs fall, part 2. They're post-apocalypse.
Okay.
Or the poxeclipse. Is that what they call it? The kids called it
the poxeclipse.
Yeah. The poxeclipse.
Okay, my question is, when it comes to the third movie in your franchise, does it guarantee a train? Is this and
wait, what else?
Back to the Future 3.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's there's a train
3.
sequence in the beginning of Toy Story 3. This is really working out for me, I think. No train in Spider-Man 3. No train in Return of the Jedi.
There's a train in Spider-Man
2.
Yeah.
And 2.
They just jumped the gun a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, they didn't do it right. Was there a train in Matrix 3?
No, I made that. I was just joking.
Okay, I was like, is there?
That's an interesting theory.
Okay, yeah.
Ryan,
what you got? And then I want to ask the question about how we would rank the movies so far.
Oh, these 3 movies. Okay.
All right, so George Miller was given the rights to The Road Warrior and this film to get him to step aside as the director of the movie Contact that was made in 1997.
Wait, so he was already signed on as the director for Contact?
Yes.
But they gave him the rights back.
And I guess they didn't want him to do it so bad that they gave him the rights to 2 Mad Max movies.
Why did they not want him to do Contact?
I don't know.
Like, was Zemeckis like, this is my movie? Me, Jodie Foster, Matthew McConaughey, these are my people to make this.
And he must have been like, he's already contracted, so they were like, look, because he's already like, he's guaranteed he had to do Contact. I guess that's the only reason they would have to barter with him and be like, here, we'll give you these movies.
They're
back.
like, hey, George Miller, come to Barter Town. We'll talk this through.
That's pretty cool though, because now he owns his first movies, which doesn't always happen for most people. It
was good for Mel Gibson too.
Studio usually owns them.
I'm still up. I had a lot, guys.
Cool.
Let's go.
I still have a lot.
Do you really?
Okay, so there was originally not going to be a Mad Max movie, and you guys already talked about how he possibly, completely stole it. But it's supposed to be like a post-apocalyptic Lord of the Flies film about a tribe of children, and he just added in Max meeting the kids instead of like anything else happening. So
you think that was that Captain
Walker,
Ridley Walker?
Yeah, I think the Ridley Walker story was probably like that, and then he wrote in this like Thunderdome stuff and like added, and then put Mad Max into the world. And I mean, just the fact that the guy's name was Ridley Walker, and then he makes this. Why would you do that? Why, if you're gonna steal the story idea, change the name.
Something I read was the script had all the same names from the book, and then like once they got to set, he started changing a few of them.
Oh my gosh,
that's so blatant.
Yeah,
like how do you do that? And also, the guy in the interview I saw where he was talking about how George Miller stole all of his stuff. He was like, I hope he can't sleep at night. He was like, but he probably doesn't care.
Back then it was probably easier to get away with it than it would be now.
I mean,
because now we have the internet, and the internet will rat you out in a heartbeat.
But it seemed like, from what I had read, that was somewhat of a popular book at the time.
It actually did very well.
So it was in the public conscious.
Yeah. There's this whole article I found about it too, where, I mean, this dude goes pretty deep on it.
My respect for George Miller just went down just like a little bit.
Yeah, and it sucks because it's like, I don't know, like why didn't he just be like, oh cool, let's work with this guy on getting the rights to,
or even give him somewhat of story credit.
Yeah, some story credit. Yeah, so the guy would at least make some money. You know.
He was like, I'm already splitting director duty. I can't split anything else.
I'm spread too thin here while he's in his full white suit in the desert.
And his white, like, whatever he's wearing on his head. Hard hat, maybe?
He's got one of those, like, safari hats, but it's pure white.
Yeah.
He pretty much took Bruce Spence's outfit after he finished up his day of filming this movie.
He's like, that's my look now.
Yeah. Real quick though, before we go back to Ryan, I love the stuff with them getting into the plane at the end, and the kid, he's like, "This is a stick up!" Like when they end the train.
Oh, dead meat.
This is a stick up. Anybody moves, and the dead meat. Oh, I think we're all dead meat.
Yeah, and then he runs in and he's like, Dad, people are coming, and he's like, whatever. And the kid's like, no, I'm serious. You're going to regret this, Dad. And then he's like, okay, whatever. And then they run through and he's like, oh crap, we gotta go.
Yeah. Oh, I remember one thing I was going to ask before we jump back to you, Ryan. Sorry.
It's all right.
Was the ending weird to you guys? Because it made zero sense to me. Where like everyone got away, and then Max is the only one left, and all the cars pull up, and she's just like, "See you around."
She says, "Aren't we a pair?"
Yeah.
And starts laughing maniacally and drives off.
Well, ain't we a pair, Raggedy Man? Goodbye, soldier.
It was weird. Also, it seemed like the plane had enough runway. Like,
yes,
he barely,
easily.
He didn't do much. He like ran into a car, one of those Jeeps or whatever, and then the dude takes off.
Yeah, I
right
thought
above
they were
him.
going to have to drop more of the kids too and be like, or just throw Master. They're like, we're a little overweight, and they throw the little guy.
Yo, that plane was wild looking.
Yeah,
dude, it was all vertical.
It was cool.
All right, Ryan, what else you got for us?
Okay, so there were 600 pigs in Underworld.
Whoa.
Buying that many would have hurt the pork market where they were, so they rented them from a pig farmer instead of buying them.
Wow.
Because the pork market would have suffered if they had those.
And like, what would you do if you bought those pigs? Like, I guess you'd sell them afterwards? That's crazy, dude.
You have to get 600 pigs adopted.
You make a sequel to a movie called Babe.
Yeah. It's crazy, too, because it's like I guess they're renting them from a slaughterhouse or something, but then when you're making a movie, obviously you can't hurt the animals at all, and so it's like they go from being a slaughterhouse to like a place where they're not allowed to be hurt, and then they take them back to the slaughterhouse.
What about the horse in the desert?
Yeah,
I felt like they definitely might have.
I thought they actually like killed the horse.
No,
I mean they definitely did.
You can train a horse to do that stuff.
I guess they made a prop horse and like drug it under the quicksand.
The way the horse was stumbling though, as it hit the ground, felt really genuine on the horse's part.
Dude, how do you think they did the kids going in the quicksand? That looked really good.
I think they lost a kid.
Yeah, I guess they had like a chamber underneath, and they could just because the sand was just. They would just kind of
George
slide
Miller's
through.
track record, it might have been real quicksand.
At the end, they go, no one died on this movie. No adults, at least.
Yeah. What else we got, Ryan?
Going back to the timeline. Okay, so this takes place 15 years after Road Warrior.
Okay.
And Road Warrior took place 5 years after the original Mad Max. So this film takes place 20 years after the first one.
Which makes no sense with the kids,
Yeah.
And doesn't make sense with Max, really.
No.
What's the timeline between Thunderdome and Fury Road?
Fury Road is before Thunderdome. So
really?
And Thunderdome, Max is supposed to be in his 40s, and Fury Road, he's in his like mid 30s.
Oh.
Wait, okay, so Fury Road is a prequel to Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
Wonder why they decided to do that. You think it's because of the Tom Hardy casting?
Probably. They probably just went solely off of Tom Hardy.
No.
He's a gorilla.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Wait, so it goes Mad Max 1, Road Warrior, Fury Road, Thunderdome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it going to be Fury Road, Furiosa, Thunder Road after that, I guess?
Thunder Road.
I think
Thunder Road.
the next Mad Max is supposed to take place a year before Fury Road.
Oh, the next one?
The Wasteland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going back in time.
Yeah, and Furiosa is like her as like
a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's doing like a real Star Wars treatment on this. Jumping around.
God, this timeline's insane.
I'm gonna just move on actually.
What else?
The vehicles from the movie went on tour in 1985, appearing in car shows around Australia.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Thunderdome's the only Mad Max movie to have a PG-13 rating at the time.
Oh.
Is Fury Road PG-13?
I don't know.
Probably not, because they show a lot of nudity. Or no, I was thinking of Road Warrior for some reason.
Fury Road was
I was thinking of Road Warrior.
We didn't watch the same movie.
No, Fury Road's rated
What
R.
was I watching? Must have been
Fury Road is
Furry
rated
Road.
God, no.
Furry Road.
No.
Max the dog. It's rated R.
Okay, George Miller planned to bring Mad Max to the small screen and started developing a TV series based on the films.
Oh.
And he wanted a guy named John Blake, who he met on
Tinder.
a film called Cool Change in 1986. He wanted him to star in the series, but this guy got in an accident and got permanent brain damage. Oh. So he just he shelved the TV show, shelved everything. Yeah.
Wow.
George Miller's bad luck.
Yeah.
He's cursed. Stay away from that director.
Everyone who works with him gets hospitalized, or even if he thinks about you.
Hey, I want to work with you. No, please, no. No. It's like Scanners. Yeah, the head explodes.
Auntie Entity. Entity.
Yeah.
It was written specifically for Tina Turner, even though she hadn't been approached about the movie at all.
So they wanted Tina Turner.
Yeah, she was the first one in mind. So
yeah. So what Brad said earlier was made up.
Fake news.
Oh no, they were still looking at Jane Fonda and what's the other girl?
Okay, good.
Yeah. So when he was handing in all of his weapons at Barter Town, 2 of the weapons were from the first 2 movies.
I read
from
something.
The bad guys. So bad guy in the last movie had the little crossbow, whatever. That was one of the first weapons he put down, and then another one was a pistol that he got from someone in the first Mad Max.
The first guy was Baba, whatever.
Yeah,
Little Resi or
that part was kind of comedic too.
It was
putting weapons down.
It was Wes's little crossbow.
Oh, Wes,
yeah.
What did that remind me of? Because I feel like that's been in a lot of stuff too, where it's like
they just keep going.
They just keep putting stuff. It was like The Matrix, I think.
I like how he had the fly swatter too, and then it turns out to
it
be
was like a little
knife.
dagger.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I guess he
Anything
never
else?
got his weapons back.
Yeah, that's about all I got. We kind of touched a bunch
That's
of
cool.
stuff, but
Sweet.
Those are some good little interesting tidbits, though.
Yeah. So, what do y'all feel about the Mad Max at least order
of
trilogy? Before we jump into Fury Road,
of what how we would rank these films. It's really just a question for me of if 2 or 3 I like better, because it would either be 3, 2, 1 or 2, 3, 1 in terms of favorite to last. The first one was my least favorite.
Oh, by far.
I know, still even I read articles, a lot of people still praise it, and it's I don't know, it's like they're giving too much credit to George Miller, where I really think it was him just sort of by luck having stuff happen, when they're just the way he makes you think is brilliant. And I'm just no,
this guy didn't know how to write a script.
He just didn't know how to make a movie yet.
And apparently in '85 he didn't know either, because they just took someone else's.
Someone else.
Yes. So, I don't know. What do you think, Ellis?
It's a really tough choice. I think I like the Road Warrior more than Thunderdome.
See, it's
tough.
such a.
It's tough though. It's really hard.
It's such a toss-up. I feel like I love the world building, and almost I like the stuff in Thunderdome way more than. But I almost feel like the Road Warrior is a tighter movie.
I thought
that makes sense.
It was more I like the action sequences and the build-ups to 2 more than 3, but I like the world building more than 3.
Yeah, 3 has more of the. It has a lot of stuff that we all like that Spielberg vibe.
I was about to say, yeah,
and it's I think they. Part of what hurts it though is that they tried to throw everything in this movie. Mm-hmm. So many of the, I guess just different traits of myths or apparently stories that are stolen or whatever. It's there's so many little things in it. It's almost kind of hurts the story, but it's also what made me enjoy it while watching it. But I guess it's just when I'm picking it apart, it's not as tight of a story as part 2. So I guess going on just enjoyment, I think it's third, second, first.
Yeah.
But I think if we're saying what's the better film, technically, maybe it's 2, 3, 1.
I think I agree with that, because I definitely feel watching, after I watched it, I'm I feel like Luke's going to absolutely love this movie.
Yeah.
Because it just seemed like the type of stuff that we, a lot of the Spielberg influence and, just how we really approach filmmaking, it seemed way more similar. Where watching Mad Max, The Road Warrior, I don't feel like either of us, or all 3 of us, really think in that way of storytelling and shot and stuff. So it's almost watching someone else work and taking filmmaking from a very different approach. But there were parts with the way this one worked, it felt way kind of more similar to how my brain sees movies.
Exactly.
And this is the weird thing. It kind of has that 80s cheesiness to it too, which is so endearing to me.
Yes.
Especially with the kid stuff, that it's like when it drags a little bit in that part, because I feel like the first 30 minutes, Barter Town, Thunderdome, it's so awesome.
It's it's really up. It's fast paced.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. And then it really slows down, picks back up a little bit, but it never really gets back to how it felt in the beginning until the very end. And I think the pacing is really, to me, the only thing that maybe kind of holds it back.
Right. Yeah, I thought the same thing. That the pacing in the middle slows down, and that's total switch of like the vibe of the movie, everything.
He doesn't have a concrete goal in the third movie. Like at first it's to get his stuff back, but then that disappears.
Yeah, and he never gets
so
it
it's
back.
like the concrete goal of the second movie is there.
Yeah, like the goal can change too. It's just like it just felt like the goal just didn't make sense. Like once, like I was saying earlier, like when he decides to go back to Barter Town, it's like everything feels sort of like it's being made up as they go or something, and like so going from we're staying here forever with these kids in this whatever they were in, gully cavern thing.
See, it was,
and then it's like, let's go now. We got to go to Barter Town
instead of going back to paradise,
and you don't know why. And he's kind of like, yeah, we've got to go there. And like they could have easily just gone back the way they came, but he's like, we got to go to Barter Town. We got to find the guy who knows everything. And you're like, why?
Well, I think it stems back to he wrote this movie. Made this movie as a love letter to Byron Kennedy.
Yeah.
Because he said in interviews that during the entirety of filming, he was in the grieving process. So I think it was just to make it as like a tribute to his friend versus the movie before that's both of them working together to like actually like create a story, something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
So that might be kind of where the differences lie too. Because the 3 feels like there's more heart in the movie than there is in 2.
Yeah.
So are we watching Fury Road next?
I don't know. I know we had different plans, but I mean, I guess
gonna be here next week. So is it? What are you gonna do?
Well, we'll figure that out off air, guys. Right. So I think this is a great episode. I think we can wrap it up. Everybody, stay tuned because we don't know what we're doing next either. But tune in next week. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.